Good afternoon and welcome to the next episode of A Glass of Wine with Market Minds. I'm here with Murray Raisbeck, who's the InsurTech lead at KPMG, and James Goldwin, who is also on the innovation team at KPMG. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me today.
It's all good. Afternoon, sir.
Now, I just wanted to ask you a few general questions about innovation and InsurTech, and Murray, if I could start with you, how did you get into innovation?
How did I get into it? Actually, I was working with a number of monoline motor insurers, and this was about 4 or 5 years ago, and some of my colleagues in our automotive practice came up to me and they were talking to me about autonomous driving, the impact that driverless cars are going to have on various sectors, and they were asking my perspective on the insurance market, and it got me thinking very quickly that something like a technology like autonomous driving, which frankly is the one that everyone cites, so I'm a bit ashamed that it's a bit of a cliche that was what got me into this, but unfortunately that's what it was. It got me thinking about what impact that was going to have on the clients I was working with, on their business models, frankly, the long-term viability of that sector. Ultimately, it's the UK motor market. It's a £14 billion premium market that's predicated on cars crashing. With autonomous driving technology, even before we get to autonomy, the advancements in car safety and connectivity are going to reduce the frequency and severity of accidents. So that risk pool is going to shrink, and it just got me thinking about the implications of that risk pool shrinking. And bottom line, one of my bosses that I work with, who's a very traditional insurance chap, came up to me one day and said, "Oh, Murray, you're doing a lot of stuff around these driverless cars. He says, how would you like to look after innovation for KPMG's insurance practice, full stop?" And I said, "Yes, I'd love to." And I said, what does that mean? He said, "I don't know, you tell me." So that was where it started.
James, can I ask you how you got into it?
Yeah, so I was just kind of out and about in the market and ended up stumbling into awkwardly a PwC InsurTech event, and ended up meeting a bunch of CEOs that were at the PwC event, and came back to Murray and said, "Oh, I've met all these people, what shall I do?" And he said, "Well, just go and talk to them. They're probably more interested in talking to you than they are talking to me." And then it just kind of went from there, and I met a bunch of other guys that are interested, and it's been good fun since.
Yeah, and James and his colleagues, we've got them set up what we call the Millennial Innovation Council, which is a very grand title.
We're not taking the mic.
Not taking the mic.
Just you at the moment, James.
Just James. And no, frankly, what that just really helped the likes of me just start seeing things from a millennial perspective. Now, I know it's a cliche, right? But millennials already make up a huge portion of our workforce. And before we know it, in 5 years' time, current millennials are going to be our clients. So they will be in decision-making positions right across our client base. So it's really important for us, more experienced and seasoned insurance consultants at KPMG, to make sure we've got that millennial context, which is, it's not only James's enthusiasm and energy and intellect. Sorry, James, I've said that got us interested.
We can edit that.
We're just really keen to get that different perspective.
So, would you say that you needed to know an awful lot about the insurance industry to actually sort of engage in innovation, or perhaps even practically enhance the modernisation of the market?
Definitely not. I believe you need to have some underlying ideas of how the market's running.
Yeah.
So when I got into innovation, I'd done six to 9 months of insurance. I had no idea what was really going on, but I could bring in experiences from me buying insurance online and how was that affected, and then bringing those types of ideas into how innovation could shape.
Yeah, so I'll give a slightly different perspective, which is, like anything, I think it's really useful to have a range of different perspectives in this equation. So it's really useful to have people who aren't constrained by insurance thinking coming in with completely new and fresh ideas. And the reason that is critical for the insurance sector is if you just go right to the customer experience at the moment within insurance, whether it's commercial lines, personal lines, what people are finding is they're getting much, much better customer experience outside of insurance. All right. And what technology is really shining a spotlight on how bad the insurance customer experience is now. So people are able to compare, whether it's an Amazon or a Google or an eBay customer experience, or if you look into the commercial sector, some of the procurement practices, we have online reverse auctions and the like between businesses. It's just a much smoother buying and transaction experience that people are getting in other sectors. And what we're finding is a lot of other sectors are now converging with insurance. And they're particularly converging around technology.
Could you give an example?
So again, let's go back to the driverless car. All right. So to put a driverless car on the road, you need telecommunications. You obviously need automotive. You need insurance. You need infrastructure. There's at least 8 different sectors that need to come together to put a driverless car on the road. So because technology is bringing a number of these sectors closer together, so you've got more players converging on the insurance value chain, a customer of insurance is able to much more starkly see how bad the insurance customer experience is relative to those other sectors. Right? So if we circle back to your question, do you need insurance expertise or not? It's useful to have some, because frankly you need to know exactly what issues you're solving, and you need to know some of the things that you've tried and failed to solve in the past. But it's also super helpful to bring in different perspectives from completely outside of the sector.
Thank you very much, that's really interesting. And when it comes to the commercial insurance industry, specialty, the Lloyd's market, do you think that customer experience that people experience in a day-to-day existence, buying stuff one click on Amazon, do you think commercial customers will be expecting that of their brokers and insurers when using the Lloyd's market going forward?
Okay, so I don't know. The face-to-face is, I think, for a very, very long time, going to be a critical part of the Lloyd's and specialty markets, whether it's Lloyd's or somewhere else.
Yes.
I think that aspect is hugely important. Having said that, people will want to know that the broker they're talking to or the insurance partner they're talking to has got access to the best and latest technology to be able to make the transaction smoother once you agree on a transaction, or once you've got an insurance program up and running, your ability to actually use that insurance and interact with that insurance. They want it to be able to operate as smoothly as humanly possible. So for me, it's all about looking at how technology can facilitate and enable that face-to-face relationship, so that when you are face-to-face, you can concentrate on the relationship. You can concentrate on building trust with each other. You can concentrate on getting to understand each other's expertise, and all the transactional noise and paperwork and admin that goes alongside it, you hope could be dealt with by efficient technology.
Yeah, and when it comes to people say there's a customer complex in the Lloyd's market. Actually brokers, perhaps probably no more so, but insurers consider brokers to be their customers, and they perhaps have never even met many of the people who are on their portfolio or many of the businesses. Do you think that actually could be a serious problem when we have customer-driven innovation or disruption?
I struggle to see how it would be a massive problem. So I don't refine the question a bit.
So if you've got clients who are driving innovation and wanting access to the latest technology, and insurers who aren't aware that that's what these end clients want, because they're focusing more on broker relations and spreading their portfolio of risk, do you think that sort of blind spot of knowing what their customers really want could end up whacking them?
Yeah, it could be a problem. So there are more and more ways that people or customers, the end customers, ultimately can manage their risk. Okay, so one of the big competitors that the insurance sector has got is businesses looking to self-insure. So as the end customers become more sophisticated, improve their own technology, they can improve their own understanding of the risks that they face as an end customer. They can manage that risk better themselves. All right, so that's one aspect of competition for the insurance market. The other is capital markets. So you look at like the ILS market that's burgeoning. You do have a number of hedge funds and other capital market players that are looking to climb into the insurance space and look to underwrite risk and give the end customer a different means of managing their risk. Some of these hedge funds, having spoken to them, are using super advanced technology to try and understand the risks that various subsectors are facing. A lot of these hedge funds use technology for their own investment management strategies, and now these are curious, intelligent minds who now ultimately these hedge funds, these guys are also experts in understanding of risk, right? Albeit it's market risk, it's liquidity risk, but they're now turning their minds to what can we do around insurance risk, and how can we apply technology in that space? So I just think there are alternative forms of risk management out in the world that this customer complex, did you call it?
Customer complex.
Customer complex. I think is shining a spotlight on.
That's
I feel
really,
like on that point, we've also got the prevention market. More and more innovative companies that come up are about kind of how do I prevent this even happening in the first place? Be it putting sensors on big ships so they don't crash into ports. Be it being able to control the amount of aeroplanes in the space and the air at once. I mean, we've heard many a time at KPMG the McLaren story of how they got from a plane every 4 minutes to a plane every 1 minute. Maybe that's the wrong numbers, but that kind of area has changed the way that risk managers even look at the insurance space. There's less need for it at times because they're preventing themselves. So I believe that's a bit of a competitive force for.
That's really interesting that you both talk about that, because a lot of people look at sort of lemonade and say, oh, that's the disruptor, but actually maybe the disruptor is just simply alternative capital. It's able to provide sound risk management, etc. So what would you say about the partnering of InsurTech companies with reinsurers like Munich Re, who are very, very global? Munich Re's market cap, I don't know, maybe 30 billion or something. But they're partnering direct with InsurTech companies, and they're probably understanding more about end customers than insurers do. Are they perhaps sweeping the rug from their own feet, or are they being quite smart?
So I think it's an undeniable trend. Most, if not all, of the reinsurers are looking at how they get closer to the customer and have more of a kind of direct customer relationship and leverage their balance sheet. But they are equally aware they do have the massive conflict with what that does to the primary insurers and cutting them out of the middle. So I think I don't know what strategic decisions they've made about how far they push their kind of direct to customer offerings through the InsurTechs or not. I think at this point in time they are piloting, they're exploring to see whether that business model works, to see whether that business model is potentially profitable for them, to see if that business model does bring the right sort of risks onto their balance sheet, to see if that business model enables them to scale in the way that they can scale through the primary insurers. So I'd be very, very surprised if any of them have made massive strategic bets and say, look, this is the future business model. But I certainly think they're learning an awful lot from their current engagement with the InsurTech market.
Do you have
I don't think it's just the reinsurance side. I think everyone that partners with an InsurTech gets access to a new range of thinking. I mean, a lot of the strategic areas in an insurance company that I kind of understand is along the lines of, our head of strategy said we should do this. I mean, sometimes I feel like you have to take a step out of it, take a step out of your normal day-to-day world to therefore understand the possibilities that could occur. I mean, we did a fantastic session with the Shadow Council last week around idea generation, and it was around I sat there for 3 hours, and I went in there knowing not really much, didn't really have any ideas about the community and how it could be improved, and we came out with a very viable business model, which if we sent it to a restaurant, we could easily get it sold. I mean, okay, I digressed from insurance.
Why are you still here then, James?
No, I was going to say, I mean, I'm just waiting for it to get the right funding. And but what I'm saying is that there's no reason why, because you're an insurance market practitioner, that you should just focus on insurance. You should have a look what else is going out there, and that might help you generate new products that can help bolster your own insurance portfolio.
Yeah.
Thank you. And
Can I just build on that? Just
Yeah,
one further build on the whole reinsurance partnering with InsurTech. So some of the partnerships they've got will help them enable their primary insurer relationships. So they're not all pure D2C plays. Some of the I can't name names, but some of the partnerships we've seen between InsurTechs and the reinsurer is actively promoting the InsurTechs to be part of their primary insurer base, to help them, enable the primary insurance layer and make that a much more efficient, much more customer-centric proposition as well. So, not everything we see the reinsurers doing is looking to cut the primary insurer out.
yeah, okay, that's good, very good perspective. Thank you, Murray. And when it comes to looking at the InsurTech market, I'm sure you've seen and heard a lot of what's going on in London, and what about the rest of the world? Have you done any trips, and have you perhaps looked at other markets that could be a threat or an opportunity to London InsurTech?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So look, the other markets that I find really interesting are clearly, Silicon Valley is fintech, one of the fintech hubs of the world. Most of what we're seeing coming out of Silicon Valley is very much health tech focused. The vast majority of the InsurTech funding that's been raised in the last 2 years has been in the health insurance market, and I think that's largely, Obamacare presented a lot of opportunities, for new players to come to that market. It'd be interesting to see what Trump's reforms around healthcare do to that in the US. But that's, for me, health insurance has been the big push in the US. In Southeast Asia, what we've seen, or China as well, with the likes of Zhong'an coming to market, I think we've seen examples there of how, platform businesses can scale really quickly and get vast numbers of customers engaged, at speed. So,
Could you tell us a tiny little bit about Zhong'an?
Zhong'an. Okay, so Zhong'an is a partnership. Well, Zhong'an was set up a partnership between Ping An and Tencent. So Ping An, the insurer in China, Tencent, who's one of the backers of Alibaba, the super app.
Yeah.
It's almost like China's combination of Facebook, Amazon, Google, all in one. So that is an ultimate. It's an online marketplace.
Yeah.
All right. And so what Zhong'an do, the first product they launched was around ensuring delivery of goods through Alibaba. So very, very low premium. I think it's like 0.15 of a cent per policy. But it enabled them in 18 months to build up 330 million policyholders. In 2 years, they topped 500 million policyholders, which gave them incredible insight into that customer base. All right. Plus, it got those customers used to engaging with insurance online. All right. So what Zhong'an are now looking to do, and they're developing home and motor and other products off the back of it, because they've established themselves in that marketplace. They've got a huge customer base already. It's a much easier way for them just to have a 100% digital online customer experience around the insurance product. So that's what, in a nutshell, what Zhong'an did. I think one to watch, which is really interesting, is Ping An, Tencent, and Aviva have partnered in Hong Kong around a life insurance product there. So again, that's a really interesting move and one to watch out there. So those are two markets that are really interesting. The other one, which is less often talked about, is Israel. So Israel has got a very burgeoning, very vibrant fintech scene. The Israel story is fascinating because a lot of the tech companies that have emerged from Israel are a product of their national service program out there, because everyone comes out of school in Israel, they have to do a couple of years of national service. When they're in the Israeli Defense Force, the more tech-minded people within that team, they give them a budget and they give them an issue that Israel is facing, and they ask those individuals to go out there and find solutions and develop solutions using technology for those challenges. So they are curating innovation and real-life entrepreneurs within the Israeli Defense Force. When people come out of the Israeli Defense Force, what the Defense Force is not great at doing is protecting those ideas and with IP and patents, etc. So we see a lot of individuals coming out and commercializing the ideas that they generated within the Israeli Defense Force. So that's why Israel, for example, has got a phenomenal cyber security force in that country. You'll see a lot of the world's top cyber security businesses have come out of Israel. The other things that they're developing within the Israeli Defense Force and then within the fintech sector, there's a lot of deep data analytic, predictive analytic businesses coming out of there. There's a business called Black Swan that's really interesting to have a look at. They're doing a lot around artificial intelligence, with virtual agents and the like. Again, there's a business called Personetics, which has come out of there. And these are all initially businesses that we used within the IDF, within the Israeli Defense Force. They're also doing an awful lot at the moment around augmented reality. And they're using augmented reality, for example, I saw a demo of this, it was mind-blowing. There's in Israel, if you're in a battlefield, all right, a lot of the medics that they train, when they're in the field, the first time they're actually performing an operation in the field is probably the first real-life operation they've ever performed, full stop, off the back of their training. So what they're doing with these guys is they're giving them VR headsets that when they're looking at the patient, they've got access to an experienced surgeon who's back at head office. The experienced surgeon is drawing lines on the patient and showing the field medic exactly how and where to make the incision, what organs to extract, etc. So, the person in the field has got real-life visualization, augmented reality over and above their patient to help guide them through that operation. So it's just, some of the technology they're using is absolutely phenomenal. So Israel, they've got some amazing technologies coming out of there. But the other thing that's fascinating about that market is, they say there's 1 degree of separation in Israel. The market's very close. It's a close ecosystem. So, the VC providers, the private equity providers, some of the strategic investors are all very close to the fintech community that's coming up through there. So they've all got a very strong sense of what will work, what won't work. They filter through a lot of the noise pretty quickly. And then the final thing that Israel does, which is pretty impressive, is actually they've got a small market there. There's only 7 million people live in Israel. So it's a small addressable market. So they've got a very big focus and push on exporting their talent. So their most recent export was Mobile Eye. Mobile Eye is a business that provides the sensory detectors on autonomous cars. Intel just bought them for $16 billion. So that's just one example of a technology developed in Israel that's gone on, onto the world scale.
So do you think we should have a sort of graduate scheme sending people into the army for a couple of years? James, what do you think?
I mean, I'd have never made it into the army, that's for sure.
No, that's true. you and I both.
But no, I believe it. Why not? Why not? Or even just to start up InsurTech accelerator, not startup program or something like that.
Well, yeah, that leads us to that whole sort of idea of a practical training in technology for people who are working in financial services. And as you were saying, technology is now becoming integrated very heavily with all industries, from cars to financial services. So do you think, what advice would you give someone who's coming into the industry now? Would you say, do an Udo course online, do a bit of AI, read a couple of books about it, do a bit of coding? What would you say to that person? And if you were perhaps the governor of the CII board, would you throw all the books in the fire and say, let's do some AI?
So I would definitely encourage everyone to learn how to code. It's not a language I speak. I wish I did. I do think that the people, let's roll forward 5 years, right, or 10 years, when the dream is realised, right, and we have these fully automated, robotic, cognitive systems running our businesses. Okay, the people, we're still going to need people within the sector to configure all the technology. B, to teach the technology. So cognitive computing relies on learning from experts. All right, so the human expertise is still going to be required. So it's how do the human experts learn how to interact and leverage that technology that's going to be really key. We aren't just going to want to blindly trust a black box to make decisions for us. We're going to want to constantly. If you're on a board of an insurance company, you can't just see what gets spat out of the black box and say, yeah, we'll do that. Let's run on that decision. You want somebody to be able to explain to you what were the data inputs, how was that configured, how have we analysed the decisions that have been made. So a lot of this technology, for me, is going to be used as decision support, enabling. So I would just encourage anyone coming into the sector, learn how you can work with the technology. Make sure you don't forget your insurance expertise. You need to learn your deep underwriting, your deep claims expertise. I would also encourage them very strongly to have a really deep understanding of the markets that they serve. All right, whether that be the aviation market or marine market, those markets in their own right are going to be evolving and changing at a rapid pace. So you're probably going to have to find people are going to have to be specialists, even more so in a specific market, so they can really keep up to date with the changes that their customers are facing. The risk pools will be constantly changing. I think you're going to have to specialise to an extent just to make sure you can even keep pace with all of that change. So, I see a huge part for humans to play in all of this, and those are the sorts of skills I'd encourage people to adopt.
Yeah, I agree. It's not all doom and gloom. And James, you've come into the market recently. Are you doing anything? Are you doing any AI courses? Are you doing any coding courses, or how do you see your professional development?
Well, I'm currently training to be an actuary, and that feels like a code in itself. No, I think what I've done a little differently to most other graduates that have come into the industry is I've not been afraid to stand up and be counted on. In terms of, I've seen something that I think is a bit inefficient, and I might have spoken to a manager who's gone, we've always done it that way. Great. We'll just carry on, it'll be fine. And I'm like, well, why are we always doing it that way? Why can't we go somewhere else and do it this way? Why can't we take it a different route? And I think that's we don't want everybody coming in and doing that, because all of a sudden you've got a bunch of very noisy graduates coming in, but some people need to be able to stand up and go, actually, no, I don't think we should be doing this way. We should be taking it a little bit away and not be scared of challenging someone that's senior. I could quite happily sit and challenge Murray, and he'd probably hate me for it, but I think we'd have a great intellectual conversation off the back of it and form a great plan to where to go to next.
I won't tell you what I think of you, James.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good advice. So
that's just triggered one more thought of a skill that I think is really essential. And it's no different to skills that have been relevant in the London market forever, which is networking. So we're moving to a model where insurance ecosystems rather than marketplaces are going to be the future of insurance. All right, so everyone talks about the emergence of platform-based businesses and the like. Those only work if you have a very effective network around the platform, which means not only build your APIs and your tech interfaces to connect with each other. People right across those different markets and different parts of the ecosystem are going to need to be able to connect with each other. Technologists are going to need to understand the language of insurance, who are going to need to understand the language of aviation, understand the language of marine, understand the language of space travel. And in order to understand that language, I think getting to know your network and your peers right across those different sectors is absolutely critical. So everything that I've seen, you two personally doing in the insurance sector, with the Innovation Council and what's your network called?
Next Generation.
Your engine network, all around building up your networks and your networking skills from an early stage in your career, I think will continue to be vital to it.
Thank you. That's really good advice. And can I ask, just to sort of finish off a bit, what technology you think is going to impact the industry the most in the immediate future?
Immediate future, AI, very comfortably. So, long term, blockchain could have some fairly profound effects, but I think people have got comfortable with AI quite quickly. And I think it's because they've seen examples of it working. Even simply, you see examples of it working in your home, and particularly with the introduction of Alexa and voice-related AI, people are just getting comfortable with this whole notion that a virtual agent or a virtual assistant could be incredibly helpful to them. So for me, I think in the short to medium term, it's AI, particularly voice-enabled AI, is the thing that's going to transform and help enable things in the sector.
Thank you very much. James, anything you're seeing in the market that's exciting? Or?
I just love all the preventative stuff.
Yeah.
And every time I go to any kind of innovation event and someone tells me about a ship that avoided sinking because its sensors told it was about to hit a rock, I get very excitable. I feel like the big opportunity is in emerging markets. I feel like that's a brownfield. They haven't got any legacy systems. They haven't got areas they go, or their regulation may not be as stringent, so there's a bit more opportunity to explore. And I feel that for insurers in the UK could be a great place to start understanding how they can really utilise the innovative technology. Take 1% of your customer base and just say, look, let's try this out as a new idea and see how it works, and then start to implement it through 5%, 10%, and all of a sudden you could be at 100% within a couple of years. Everyone's happy.
Excellent. Well, guys, thank you very much for joining us today.
It's been good talking.
It's very insightful.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can do a part 2 in 6 to 9, maybe a year's time, and see how much has changed.
Yeah,
so thank you for your insight. Is there any final message, anything you would like to plug, any events or anything like that?
I won't shamelessly plug anything. No. We'll do that in 9 months' time. Yeah.
Well, I will promote the wasabi nuts at number 20s. Anyway, thank you very much. That's it. Thanks, guys. That was really, really, really good. No, it's fine.